It is season 2, episode 40 of the Hall of Fame show. And Evan, this is not one of those weeks where we don't have stuff to talk about. We've got quite a few things that are Hall of Fame related, I think.
That is true. What episode is this, by the way?
That's the big 4-0.
Ah, yes, the big 4-0. That is it's our second one though, so we're not big 4-0 virgins, I don't believe.
No. I mean, I'm married, so my regularity isn't quite what it used to be, but I don't think it's going to grow back.
Is this episode? Did we do 50 the first year? So this is episode 90 overall.
Something like that.
So no, when I think 40, I think Gail Sayers. By the way,
that's me too.
Is that about everyone you can think of?
That's pretty much the only one worth talking about that's even remotely close. Wasn't Sean Kemp 40, but I don't think that counts.
Kurt Thomas, I think, was 40 for a bunch of teams.
And life does begin at 40, so I keep telling myself. Pretty soon I'll say it begins at 50. But
in the words of Walter Matthau and Hello Dolly, right, that definitely shows you how cool and hip I am.
Okay.
A man isn't worth a damn till he's 40 years old. So
I just thought that was a song. I didn't even know that was a movie.
Hello Dolly? Yeah, it's a musical.
Okay.
But yeah, the film version musical had Dolly chasing a much older and definitely sexy Walter Matthau. I mean, there was no sexier man in Hollywood history than that.
Buttermaker. All right. Hey, why not?
Yeah, Buttermaker, exactly.
Why not? Hey, I mean, Christy McNichol did too, didn't she? Wait, no, that wasn't Christy McNichol. That was Tatum O'Neal.
Tatum O'Neal, yeah.
All right. Well, they were in a movie together.
So, they were. That is true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honest mistake. But no one.
In Hello Dolly, it was Barbara Streisand after Walter Matthau.
Well, we're really selling musicals hard on me, aren't we? Jesus Christ. All right. Well, I'm going to change the subject of this. You mind if I go in the shit box right away?
Oh, I mean, we're already talking about Barbara Streisand and after Walter Matthau in a musical in 1969. Why not?
Well, it's Kirk's shitbox, where I will say pretty much whatever's on my mind. But this is actually Hall of Fame related, kind of, sort of, because we do look at how each team honors their former players, executives, such and such. And the Washington football team, I mean, they've got to change their thing to not. It should never be written WFT. It should always be WTF. Always. These management there, I mean, is just a mess. Now, last week we touched on John Gruden, which we didn't touch on. We talked a lot about that and how Gruden was pretty much the first and to date only real casualty of this very giant investigation into the toxic, misogynistic work atmosphere of the Washington football team. So what do? They decide that, okay, we're going to deflect and we're going to honor Sean Taylor, whose number was kind of unofficially retired. They've got a few numbers that are mostly taken out of circulation. And Sean Taylor last played with them in 2007 because he died. He was killed tragically in a home invasion from 4 people, I believe.
Yeah, he was shot in the leg and bled out through his femoral artery.
Mm-hmm. And Taylor that was his breakout year. Who knows whether he'd ever be a Hall of Famer? Probably not, but who's to say? He was on pace for a first year All-Pro, or first team All-Pro rather, which would have been his first one, which is, I think, what I meant to say. So 2007 was super good for would have been a super good season for Taylor. And so here we are 14 years later, and they have decided to officially retire his number. Now, obviously this seemed very suspect because was it Tuesday or Wednesday when they said, hey, we're doing this Sunday. Now, since I've had this site and I pretty much write about everything Hall of Fame related, every day for the last 10 years, I'll Google search anything Hall of Fame or retired number or Ring of Honor or anything like that. And without fail, it's always been where an organization has said, we're going to be doing this next year or in a few months. It's never, not once, I'm sure it's happened before, but not since I've been looking at this. where they said, okay, we're going to do this in a few days. How goddamn transparent can they be? And especially considering that Sean's brother came out and said, well, I didn't know about it.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that this shouldn't have happened. I mean, if they're going to do it, I mean, you'd think usually organization will do this that year or the year after. I mean, there's piles upon piles of precedents for this, but not 14 years.
Mm-hmm.
How are they this bad at this? Who is their head of PR? Who? Because they're clearly incompetent.
I mean, they can't even come up with a name for the team. So
I kind of think they should just stick with this. I kind of like this. I think the Washington what the fucks should be their new name.
I mean, the name they're going to go with is just, is the Red Wolves. They're going to be the Washington Red Wolves. And the reason they're not the Washington Red Wolves is one of their own fans figured out what the likely names were and bought all the domains, and he won't sell it to them because they're not offering him enough money. That's all you really need to know about how that franchise is run.
And it's just such a mess. So Taylor becomes the third player to have this honor. The first being Sammy Baugh, which no one should ever question that one. Sammy Baugh should have been the first, and he was.
Yeah.
The second just happened last year with Bobby Mitchell, 2 months after he died.
Yeah. I mean, Bobby Mitchell deserved it, but not while he was alive.
Right. And like this team, just a history of screwing up this left and right. Again, I don't begrudge this for the family of Sean Taylor. Just if you're going to take care of this family, do it right. What you didn't need to do this year, because you're not really deflecting anything. If anything, you're putting a giant spotlight over you, saying, "No, we're good." Like, but no, we're not. It's just so low rent. I hate it. I hate everything about this. And they couldn't even protect that area because you saw Patrick Mahomes' kid brother was taking selfies or doing TikTok dances. What is this? I can't even think of any organization that is worse than this, and we're still going to find out nothing from any of this. Like from this investigation, nothing.
Well, here's the thing, and here's how you know the NFL is going to shut it down, because we talked about last week. I said this wouldn't be the last person to come out, and we talked. Schefter had a little blowback for him, but the problem was for them was the next person who came up was Jeff Pash, and if Jeff Pash, who's the legal counsel for the league, falls, a whole bunch of house of cards are all going to fall with it, because Jeff Pash is a terrible human being and a liar and someone who should have been disbarred already. He is an awful, awful man. And the emails that came out with him were also showing him to be an awful, awful man. Racist against Latinos, saying that the black players were way too lazy to vote. All sorts of things along the lines, which did not cast Pash in a good light. And they're like, oh, nothing else to see here. And just again, full disclosure, Pash is the guy who is in charge of editing the impartial Wells report into Deflategate, and then would not answer any questions from Brady's lawyers about what happened. And then lost in court, and then they won in the next level of court because it wasn't whether anything happened, it was whether or not they had the right to punish. So Jeff Pash, my hope is that there are a lot of people still pushing for the release of all of these emails.
Never happened.
But there may be enough to get some of these emails. And if we can get Jeff Pash out of the league, out of this whole thing, it will all be worth it. That man is a terrible human being. He just is. Like, there are so many things he's done awfully over the years. I bring up the Patriots stuff because it's a thing front and center. He's the guy who made the big deal about Brady's cell phone being busted after Wells said he didn't need the cell phone because he had all the text messages already. So Brady broke his cell phone, got asked if they needed it. They got a new one. And he's like, Brady destroyed his cell phone. I won't turn it over. No, he gave you literally it gave him every single text message he had. Mm-hmm. So I'm just hoping somehow this continues. I know the NFL's trying to put kibosh on it, but there's a lot of people still pushing for the release of these emails, particularly those who are pushing with the Redskins, this lawsuit against the Redskins. And if those come out in discovery, I really hope that he swings for this.
Yeah, sadly, this is again. I'd like to know how certain things are getting leaked. I'm sure Goodell had his panties up in a bunch when he was called names by Gruden.
Probably.
I mean, like this is.
Here's the thing: how is Bruce Allen like somehow getting off scot-free in this whole thing? I know he's not with the Washington football team anymore, but like he's also
that's your answer because they had nothing to take away from him. Whereas they had something where they had something they could take away from Gruden.
Yeah, but Jeff Pash also has to go. Of course, the person in charge of firing Jeff Pash is probably Jeff Pash. So
yeah, that's my shitbox. Actually, a relevant shitbox today. Actually, speaking of the NFL, and I gotta admit, as much as I will always be watching pro football, I love pro football so much, but whenever something happens in football, my first thought's always to the worst. So David Baker.
Yeah, from coming off your shitbox into actual Hall of Fame news here, legitimate Hall of Fame news.
Right. Yeah, because like this is a pretty big deal for what you and I do. David Baker resigned abruptly as the president of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Now,
in the midst of all this other stuff going on with the NFL, so there's a question as to whether or not he'd be involved. But apparently, it's just weird timing, as far as we could tell so far.
Which I openly questioned. I do think that there's you don't do this in the middle of a Hall of Fame season as it is, because like, as we know, the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
This is something you announced in April.
Right. Exactly. So I hope he's not sick.
I mean, that's a possibility. He's sick and hasn't let anybody know.
Which he doesn't have to. I mean, like,
right.
I think I'll follow the Norm Macdonald route, frankly.
No, right. But I mean, it doesn't seem like it's a scandal insofar as he's still going to be participating in this year's induction ceremony, as far as we can tell.
But it doesn't happen where it's this sudden. Now, for me personally, I'm okay with this because this guy rubs me the wrong way. He always has. You joked years ago that David Baker's his best Hall of Fame case was for David Baker. And did he raise the profile of the hall? Did he add a bit of character to it?
100%.
Yeah, but at the same time, that hall is going to be fine with or without him doing that. He lost me completely when Cower and Jimmy Johnson overtook.
But do you think that was David Baker's doing?
I think there was some influence there. David Baker liked the sight of David Baker doing that knock. He loved it.
I see what you're saying. I mean, he could have done the knock for Tom Flores.
Tom Flores was
just on national TV.
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So like I honestly think that he lost a bit of sight as to what he was really doing. And he became a little bit bigger than what he was supposed to be.
That's possible.
In my opinion. Now, I could be wrong. It could be in other people saying, you know what, this makes great TV. And you just went along with it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if there's nothing else that has the Hall of Fame announcement, I know last year was kind of weird because of COVID and everything else, but the Hall of Fame announcement is by far one of the coolest things now. It used to just be like some dude reading a list of names. And now, as part of the NFL honors and calling everybody out and having all the Hall of Famers there in the audience, everything, it's a much better thing. And that all happened on David Baker's watch.
Now, another thing I read that was sort of being floated around. Now they're doing like a massive overhaul in Canton in terms of what was the Hall of Fame building. Like just they're going all in on making this giant complex, which I think has now been farmed out to private companies. So perhaps he botched something there. Don't know.
Perhaps he bought into one of the private companies and can't do it when he's in charge of the whole.
That could be. But I mean, the timing is just so weird because it just doesn't happen. in the middle of the season and in the middle of what is Hall of Fame season.
Right. Or he could do what I said, join the Kansas City Chiefs offensive line because they need some help protecting Mahomes. And he's bigger than any Chiefs he's actually bigger than any offensive lineman in the league. I went and looked that up. He's 6'9", 420, I believe.
And not a former pro football player, which is insane.
No, it's just all we know about his life prior to this is that he has a fraud conviction. So,
which also doesn't exactly help.
It seems to fit right in with the people in charge of the NFL. So,
right.
Yeah. But, it's interesting timing. They replaced him with someone who has shining blue eyes, but otherwise seems like a corporate suit, as far as I can tell. The former PR director of the Hall, who we know nothing about. He just looks like a white dude. So we'll know more about him as time goes along. But yeah, David Baker stepping down was a very, very interesting development this week. It
is. And I hope it is legit that he just said, you know what, I'm getting older. I just want to be with my grandkids. And I sincerely hope that's what it is.
Well, maybe he wants to get in the Hall of Fame while he's still alive and he can't do it while he's in charge. Then he needs a waiting period.
Oh, please. Like that matters.
I don't know.
Yeah.
By the way, at some point they just have to put John Facenda in, don't they? Don't they just have to figure out how to get John Facenda in as a contributor?
I'm not even sure who that is.
That's the voice of God from the early NFL films videos.
Oh, ooh.
He's not in the Hall. They got the Sables at this point, both of them. Don't they just need John Facenda in there?
How about the musician who did dun 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 dun? I can't do that. Yeah.
I know. I'm thinking John Facenda is one of my my deep cuts. I don't know how they ever going to get someone who's a narrator in, but
yeah.
I mean, all those old NFL films videos we watched as kids on ESPN at 2:00 in the afternoon when nothing else was on.
Or for me, it was like every time we drunkenly returned from Orchard Park in some junket I would go to go see a Bills game.
Yeah, you get home and it would be NFL films or World's Strongest Man competition.
Yeah, God. You sent me something that I thought, and I agree with you. It is interesting to talk about because we might see an end of one of the best defensemen in the last 15 years, Shea Weber, in hockey.
Yeah, that was announced today that it's very unlikely that Shea Weber is ever going to return to the ice.
Yeah, because he's out. We already knew he was going to be out this year, and now management has said don't count on him for next year either. And you asked me if I thought he was a Hall of Famer, and based on who's in at this point, yeah, 4-time postseason All-Star, 2-time first team All-Star, so runner-up for the Norris twice. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sorry, my computer is starting videos again when I don't want it to. Yeah, no, I think so. So I went and looked up his comparables on NHL. NHL reference or hockey reference here. Mm-hmm. So through 16 seasons, he's most comparable to, like, out of a score of 100. The closest he has is 94.3 through their first 16 seasons. Mm-hmm. And that player is Zdeno Chara.
There you go.
So his most comparables through 16 seasons are Zdeno Chara, Sergei Gonchar, George Boucher, who's a Hall of Famer, Gary Suter, Hall of Famer Scott Niedermayer, Hall of Famer Chris Chelios, Hall of Famer Chris Pronger, Hall of Famer Phil Housley, Drew Doughty, and Hall of Famer Larry Murphy. So
he's got more international stuff than all of them.
That is entirely true. Yeah. He never won the Norris. He was second a couple times. He was third once, fourth once. Mm. He did win the Messier Leadership Award.
I like that award. That's one of my new favorite awards that have come up in the last 15 years.
Yeah, so he did win that a few years ago. In terms of, he was 7-time All-Star. He played his entire career either with Nashville or Montreal. So he was traded for what I can think of his name, from Montreal.
Was for PK Subban.
PK Subban. Yeah. Interesting trade now for both teams in retrospect. But yeah, I think Weber's going to be a Hall of Famer. I don't know if it's going to be first ballot.
He could be.
It depends who he's up against, of course.
Yeah, because it really. So who retired last year? That's really going to be in that same class, because there's really not a big name that because Lundqvist he didn't play last year, so he wouldn't be in that group.
Let's see who we got here. Retirements. Just a quick retirement. We have Justin Williams, Martin Hansel, Corey Crawford, Jay Bouwmeester, Pecorine.
Pekka's good, but yeah, he's not.
Ryan Miller, Mikko Koivu, Jimmy Howard. Not like a huge.
Yeah, so he's the elite of that class.
I would say so, yeah.
Yeah, and hockey's always done a pretty good job of not making upper tier players wait.
True.
Because they started so long ago.
Yeah, so, I would say out of this, I mean, Ryan Callahan is here too. I'd say out of this, as much as like Justin Williams, I don't think he's ever going to get in. It's probably Bouwmeester. Seems like the only other one who I'd even think about. I mean, Jimmy Howard is really good. I don't think he's ever going to be a Hall of Famer though.
No.
Nor Pecorine.
No. Although if Nashville wins the cup that year,
maybe that is true.
Yeah. But they didn't. So. And
of course, Shea's brother Yannick Weber also retired last year. So the only two guys Webers with 1B.
I don't even remember that player.
He played for the Penguins allegedly. And I'm looking at the retirement list.
Okay.
Yannick Weber was retired at 33. Played for the Canadiens, Canucks, Predators, and Penguins.
Yeah, I can see Shea being a first ballot Hall of Famer. Yeah, we'll see if he does sort of like make some kind of comeback, because it's not impossible.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he's only 36.
Yeah,
he's only 36. It depends. I mean, if he takes a year off and has a Gronkowski like return, it's entirely possible. So we'll see.
A team's going to give him a shot for that if he feels up for it.
Yeah. Oh, hold on a second. My computer just decided it wanted to restart something. Hold on a second.
Computers never do that.
Oh, okay. So I scheduled it for 11:40 p.m. I think we should be okay. So anyway, sorry, you can cut that part out. It just all of a sudden had
I would have to edit. Up by I'm not editing. No.
Particularly since this is in the middle. So yeah, no, Shea Weber is an interesting case. I think it is entirely possible that he is going to be a first ballot, but we shall see.
I think so. And also too, hockey doesn't worry about trying to fill a giant stadium, or not stadium, or an amphitheater. Mm-hmm. They are not driven by needing to get that revenue in. That's on them for that. But they don't have to. They're in a very, very good position, better than. I don't know this for sure, but I'd have to assume they're probably more financially viable than any other. Because I wonder if the Pro Football Hall of Fame, like we sort of were talking about, I wonder if they overextended themselves with their big plans that they have. We know the Basketball Hall of Fame did jump the gun on a lot of players because they had to by altering some rules.
And now they're in a situation where they don't have the players again. It's really short-sightedness of that situation.
Well, I mean, if you need the money there and you're just sort of hoping, hey, if I build it, they'll come.
Yes. Maybe.
Of course, you still built it in Springfield, Massachusetts.
Hey, it is like the 17th or 18th most visited town in New England.
I'm sure I've driven past it quite a few times.
Somewhere between Brattleboro, Vermont, and New Britain, Connecticut. Somewhere in there. I'm not sure. Up there with Bangor, Maine.
You know, considering I thought we had a whole lot to say, we're whipping right through this.
Yeah, well, there's a long death march today. So,
well, should we get into that?
Yeah, we might as well. So I guess we'll start in mixed martial arts. Oh, by the way, no, actually, let me start before I get to mixed martial arts. The Beige Mistress has made her first appearance in a long time.
Oh no, who died from Hungary?
A Hungarian volleyball player, Otto Prusa. who competed in the men's tournament in the 1964 Summer Olympics, passed away at the age of 88. This is the first. So for those who have been listening more recently or did not listen last year, when I was doing this death march, I noticed a run of Hungarian athletes who were all dying. And there was a point for like 20 or 21 consecutive weeks where we had at least one dead Hungarian Olympian. And because it seemed like a very strange coincidence, instead of the Black Widow, Kirk dubbed our killer the Beige Mistress. But she has been quiet for 6 months at this point, probably.
I'm trying to think, one dead Hungarian Olympian sounds like a Wes Anderson film.
The Life Aquatic with one dead Hungarian Olympian. No, yeah, but Otto Prusa passed away at the age of 88. So we'll see. We'll check see if the Beige Mistress is back from vacation. Yes. So going back to mixed martial arts, Brian Gassaway passed away at the age of 49. He competed for UFC, Bellator, a whole bunch of all these other ones I've never even heard of. But he had 27 wins in his career and 19 losses. Passed away at the age of 49. I do not have a reason as to why. From boxing, former WBC light middleweight champion Miguel de Oliveira passed away at the age of 74 from pancreatic cancer. He was the champion in light middleweight from May of 75 through November of 75. But he was 74 years old. Let's see here. From the world of running, unfortunately, professional long distance runner for Kenya, competed at various world games. Agnes Tirop was stabbed to death at the age of 25, perhaps by her ex-husband in Eton, E10 in Kenya. Her husband was involved in a high-speed chase trying to flee the country when he ultimately rammed his getaway vehicle into a bus in Mombasa and was arrested. So, but yeah, she was a bronze medalist at the 2017 and 2019 World Championships in the 10,000 meters. But she passed away unfortunately only at the age of 25.
It's awful.
Yeah, it's not so good. Let's see here. From the world of football, we lost quite a few NFL folks this week. So actually, College Football Hall of Famer Otis Armstrong, who was a one-time All-Pro in 74, two-time Pro Bowler, running back for the Broncos, passed away at the age of how old was he? 70 years old. Does not give a cause of death. But yeah, he two-time Pro Bowler, member of the Chicagoland Sports Hall of Fame, which I didn't even know was a thing, and I live in Chicagoland. Number 9 pick in the 1973 draft out of Purdue, was elected to the College Football Hall of Fame in 2013, the MVP of the Big Ten in 72, first-team All-American in 72. Ran for 4,400 yards, average of 4.4 yards a carry. But he passed away at the age of 70. We lost punter Pat Studstill, who played for the Lions, Rams, and Patriots for 11 years, two-time Pro Bowler back in 65 and 66, was also actually, believe it or not only a punter, but he was also the NFL yards receiving leader in 1966, which is interesting. There aren't that many people who do multiple things.
No.
Yeah, he had 67 receptions and led with 1,266 receiving yards, which is pretty good for 67 receptions, but not exactly a ton of receiving yards. He also became the third player to have a touchdown for 99 yards in that season. So, but he had 5 consecutive games in NFL with 125 or more receiving yards. Which is still a league record, which has been tied by Hall of Famer Calvin Johnson, but not he's the only one there. So he was also the last NFL player not to wear a face mask. That was pretty cool. But he passed away at the age of
Your
80.
last name starts with stud.
Yeah.
I totally believe that.
He's 83. He's not just stud, but he's a stud still. Pat stud still. Passed away. He was 83 years old. We lost Dennis Franks, who was linebacker for the Eagles and Lions in the 70s. He passed away at the age of 68. Not much to say other. He was a all Big Ten first conference center with Ohio State. Paul Salata passed away. He was the 118th pick in the 1951 draft. Played with the 49ers, Colts, and then was a CFL All-Star with the Calgary Stampeders at one point in his career. So he passed away at the one day before his 95th birthday. He's actually probably more famous for playing Tony Manelli in the original Angels in the Outfield. He's also an actor as well.
Okay.
He was also in Stalag 17 as a prisoner. We also had linebacker Dave Washington, who was a Pro Bowler in 76, played for the Broncos, Bills, Niners, Lions, and Saints over the course of 11 seasons. He passed away at the age of 73. And let's see. So that is it for that. For baseball, we lost a pretty big name in baseball. One of the kind of sadder stories probably in baseball history. Ray Fosse passed away.
Oh, yeah. Mostly known for Pete Rose running him over.
Yeah, mostly known for being a not as solid brick wall as he was hoping to be in the All-Star game back in 1970 All-Star game when Pete Rose bowled him over. Probably one of the most famous highlights of the 70s in sports, really. He made the All-Star game again the next year in 71. He won a couple World Series with the A's in 73 and 74. He also won 2 Gold Gloves in 70 and 71. But it was never quite the same after Rose bowled him over. Mm-hmm. But he passed away at the age of 74. He was an A's radio announcer for a very long time as well. And was nominated for the Frick Award back in 2004, but he was not elected. So, he passed away from cancer.
I think that's the thing when you're at that, it helped cement Pete Rose's legacy at the time of just someone I'm going to always sort of like go after it. I don't care that it's an exhibition. I put in air quotes, but at the same time, you got to figure Fosse was not prepared mentally to think that, okay, I'm going to have to protect my ground. He's probably thinking like, what? No, this isn't, boom. And then it's too late.
Yeah. It was, Charlie Hustle, right? But he was just, Ray Fosse was not prepared. And you got to feel bad because he had a real great start to his career. And then it went from a promising possible Hall of Fame career, 2-time Gold Glover, and his third and fourth year in the league. Who knows where that leads to, just being an average middle of the road catcher. So, but anyway, he passed away at 74. From the world of music, we lost Ronald Tutt, another one of those session guys who I like to talk about all the time. He passed away at the age of 83. He was a drummer who played concerts and recording sessions for Elvis Presley, the Carpenters, Roy Orbison, Neil Diamond, Jerry Garcia. Who else do we have here?
He was one of Presley's main drummers, I think, right?
I think he may very well be. He was on Billy Joel's. He was Billy Joel's backup guy through Piano Man. He's around a whole bunch of stuff. But yeah, he was part of Elvis's touring and recording band as well. But yeah, he passed away. It doesn't say from what, but he was 83. From the band Delta Moon, Tom Grier passed away. Hold on one second. My computer just did his weird thing again. He was the main songwriter for Delta Moon. He also wrote the hit Money Changes Everything. He passed away at the age of 70. Reggie Hargis passed away from the band Brick. Do you remember Brick with their number 3 hit in 1972, Daz? Hit number 3 in 1972.
Mm-mm. No, I don't remember.
I had to go look it up. It wasn't one that I knew off the top of my head either. But he was their basic player for most of their career. And he passed away at the age of, where is Reggie Hargis? He passed away at the age of 70 as well. We lost a lot of voice actors this week. I'm not going to go into many of them, but I do want to bring up, oh shoot, I somehow closed it. The actress who played, did you ever see the incredibly terrifying 1986 movie Return to Oz?
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that once, but I can't remember too much about it other than it wasn't very good.
It was terrible and terrifying.
Yeah.
So Denise Breyer passed away. She was Belina the chicken, and that she was 93 years old, but that movie was scarring. As a matter of fact, my friends and I did a disturbing movie marathon one day in our early 20s where we did like the very special episode of Punky Brewster where Cherry gets stuck in the refrigerator. And we did Return to Oz, and what else did we do? We had Blue Velvet. We had a few of them. We did the movie Happiness. I don't know if you ever saw that movie. That movie's creepy as heck. But yeah, just when she passed away, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that that I'm still getting flashbacks from a movie I saw as a little kid. Couple of famous folks who passed away. Betty Lynn, best known as Thelma Lou from Andy Griffith Show, passed away at the age of 95. It's amazing anyone from Andy Griffith is still alive. Of course, Colin Powell passed away from COVID complications and the fact that he had cancer. He passed away at the age of 84.
I thought he recovered from cancer, but it was blood cancer. No, so like
it was blood cancer, so it automatically makes you much more
right
susceptible if you were to catch it.
Yeah.
And finally, the only Hall of Famer from either of from the major leagues here that we lost here was Leo. I think it's Biothan.
Yeah.
Who was a defenseman mainly for the Maple Leafs Bruins. Well, he played for Maple Leafs, Bruins, Red Wings, Penguins, and North Stars from 52 to 70.
Yeah, mostly with your team.
Mostly with the Bruins. Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty good player.
Yeah, he had played 1,150 games, 322 points. A member of, I don't think he won any Stanley Cups.
No, he didn't. But I mean, just to have played, I guess, because I think I don't have the exact number, but 900 of those games would have been during the original Six era.
Correct.
How good do you have to be to have been in one of those 6 teams?
True, and he was a captain of the Bruins too. So, yeah. So
master of the hip check.
Yes. So he went to 3 Stanley Cup finals and lost all of them to the Montreal Canadiens.
No shame in that.
No shame in that. So, but he passed away at the age of 90 in Ontario. So 2 months after his 90th birthday. So he was a Ottawa Senators season ticket holder, actually.
Wow. Yeah.
So,
he won't miss.
Served as a scout with the Whalers until his retirement in 93. So, so there you go. That's what I got for the Death Mark.
All right. So I guess I don't have a whole lot for elevator up, elevator down, and that's where I just pick somebody from the world of sports or maybe music here and there and say, well, they had a good week that's going to help them out for their potential Hall of Fame, or they didn't. The biggest thing, and again, I ripped on the WNBA enough, so I'm not going to. But I'm just going to say, Kalia Copper, congratulations to the Chicago Sky. Age 27, she was an all-star for the first time this year, and she was named the MVP of the finals. That's got to be huge for her potential Hall of Fame-dom, I think, especially at the age she is, where you pretty much need to start piling this stuff up right now. So congratulations to her. And I think she's the most obvious elevator up, but I don't have much more to say on that other than that was pretty obvious.
Here's a question for you. When my friends and I were debating whether Zach Greinke was a Hall of Famer when he started Game 4, and then only went like an inning and 2/3, but we were looking at his comparables, and his comparables are like Kurt Schilling and Pedro Martinez, and some people were in the hall, Juan Marshall, and folks like that. So some people were in the hall with lower win totals, and like Schilling should be in the hall if he weren't a douche. Yeah. So we're going back and forth as to whether or not he is. I think he ultimately is going to get in. I mean, his 215 career wins. I mean, as Red Sox fans, we didn't see him that much because he played in most of his formative years are Kansas City and Milwaukee, and then he had some really good years with the Dodgers.
I think he's worthy of certainly consideration at this point, but he's not done yet. So
that's also true. He's also 37 years old, 38 years old. I don't know how much more he's really got. I mean, it'd probably help him if he won the championship with the Astros, which after the ass whipping they've given us over the last 12 innings or 11 innings at this point. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I got to say, like, I was sort of hoping to watch a Boston Dodgers. That doesn't look like that's going to be the case.
We already had one of those recently, so
doesn't mean I wouldn't rather see that than anything with Houston. I don't want to see it.
Yeah, well, there's still time. It's not over yet, so we'll see. But yeah, it did not look good. So
as for an elevator down, if I had to really pick something, I really don't have anything that really came up. I'm kind of interested in when the rest of Lizzo's album drops. Because she's a very interesting woman who changed a lot of things, but if the rest of the album is basically, "Hey, I'm fat, look at me," like her first single.
Yeah,
like you've got to do a bit of what Lil Nas X did. There's a lot of reinvention there. I don't know. We'll see. I'm putting a pin in that one because I want to listen to a lot more of that and remind me that is something that I think is worth discussing. Oh, actually, what we should mention? The Rock Hall announced some of their presenters.
Oh, that's true. Yep. Why don't you go through that if you have that in front of you?
Yeah, I don't. So I'm going to try to do this off the top of my head. So Paul
I'll find it. I'll figure it out while you're talking.
So Paul McCartney is going to be inducting Foo Fighters.
Okay.
Very interesting. Angela Bassett, I know, will be inducting Tina Turner. I think that should be great. I believe also too, we've got quite a few interesting people who will be part of a performance with that. Taylor Swift is going to be inducting, I'm correct on this, Taylor Swift will be inducting Carole King.
Carole King, correct.
Yeah. And Lionel Richie will be doing, and I'm blanking on who, but it's the winner of the Ahmet Aragon Award.
Yeah, hold on 1 second. I just had it, and then Rolling Stone wanted me to pay to find out the list. So give me a quick second, because Lord knows I'm not giving any money to Jan Wenner if I can avoid it.
And there's only one other announcement, because from what I understand too, they haven't said who's going to be doing anything. Because if the headliner is Jay-Z, which I suspect will be, it'll be interesting to see who that's going to be. There's still so many others that we don't know anything yet.
Yeah, so Drew Barrymore is going to induct the Go-Go's.
Yeah, that was the one I couldn't remember off the top of my head. And my first thought when I looked at that, like, but then I thought about, like, well, why the hell not?
Yeah, why not? So it's Clarence Avant, the founder of Sussex Records, is going to be done by Lionel Richie.
Thanks. Yeah, I was blanking on that one because I should have had that prepared, but I just remember that's actually something pretty relevant. And that ceremony is coming up on October 30th. So we will have a bit to say. I think before we go into your hammer, which is the good, the bad, and the ugly of sports, or maybe just the bad and ugly of sports of the week, because I don't know if you've got.
I came up with something good we could talk about.
So on November 2nd, Evan and I will be co-hosting our second annual mock Pro Football Hall of Fame committee. We're not going to put it live there, but we will be recording everything so that everyone can sort of listen to how we came up with that. We're going to have a couple new people.
Good.
Some of our regular people.
Do we have new teams represented?
Yes, looks like.
Good.
So that'll be pretty interesting. Unfortunately, some of the people who we've had last year won't be able to, just due to some scheduling conflicts, and one because he's in Antarctica.
Yeah, that's true.
He might be a little bit busy, so I'll do my best there. But different voices will be good. So hopefully it's going to be a nice dozen of us where we'll be pretending like we are the ones in control. And at least you're going to know our process.
That is true.
So I'm pretty excited about that. And I wanted to bring it up because two people who we've acquired from this have actually emailed me and said, I want to be a part of this.
Cool.
So that's pretty much the same for everyone out here who might be listening. If you think you've got a whole lot to sort of contribute and you want to have your voice heard, please, we want to hear from you. Yeah.
And then you get to be in the room where it happens, the room where it happens. Yeah, I don't know. The room where this is happening. I don't know if it's really that important, but hey, who knows? If anything I can do can get Kevin Williams in the Hall of Fame, I am all for it. Yeah. So
a sentence you never thought you'd be saying 12 months
ago. This time last year, I would never thought I would be saying that. But after doing the research on it, it's ridiculous that Kevin Williams is not even on the semifinalist list last year. So he's the fourth best defensive tackle of all time.
And I'm going to do another Herschel push.
All right. Cool. Maybe you can get Doug Flutie and Tom Glavine to help.
I knew it. I was seeing if that's where you're going to go with that.
Yeah, two Boston boys helping out down in Georgia.
Whatever. I'm done talking about politics for a while. I could care less whether his politics align with
Tom Glavine, by the way, was probably just as good a hockey player as he is a baseball player. He was on Concord Carlisle's high school hockey team and was line mates with Ted Donato of the Bruins and everything else. Like as a hockey line, you have Ted Donato and Tom Glavine. That's a pretty good start to anything. So, but yeah. Anyway, all right. So should I go to the good, the bad, and the ugly?
Yeah. So what's your good? I didn't know you had.
Well, the one thing before we get into the good, I just want to tell you my favorite headline of the week I saw this week. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
All right. This is from Upper Marlboro, Maryland. Prince George's County's officials hope to capture loose zebras with a new plan involving even more zebras. So apparently there have been two zebras that have been on the loose in Prince George's County since the beginning of September. There used to be three zebras, but one of them got caught in an illegal trap and died. So there are still two zebras on the loose. So they're going to use even more zebras, which if I remember correctly, it was what Charlie tried to do to get the cat out of the wall. And it's always so funny and always sunny in Philadelphia. What's her name had a cat in his wall. It's like, what I'm going to do is put a hole in your wall and get another cat and tie a string to him, and they'll become codependent. And I'll yank that one cat out, and the other one will surely follow, I hope.
Well, it might work.
It could, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's like that, like, we've tried using no zebras. We're going to try more zebras, and if that doesn't work, we're out of ideas.
I once read a headline when I was a kid, said, man who eats dirt turns into rock.
Interesting.
I can't remember how that actually played out. I just remember.
Reminds me of those old Jay Leno headlines. Farmers study finds farmers use most farmland. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because that headline made me laugh. I was like, you don't really need to know the rest of the story.
No. Is that the
zebras on the loose, and the only way to catch them is with more zebras. No, so I'm going to start with the good. I know I made fun of the Buffalo Sabres last week or 2 weeks ago about how it was last week, about how there are only 4 players active in the NHL who have ever played a playoff game for them. Buffalo Sabres through 3 games are 3-0 at this point. This is the best start in 12 years in their franchise.
So we're going to start the parade down. We're going to go all the way at Niagara Falls and then okay.
And even more importantly, the Canadians are 0-4. So
yeah, I think they jinxed themselves with that first round draft pick last year.
Oh, I hope so. And that first round draft pick is still the most inexplicable draft pick of my lifetime.
It's up there. For hockey, it would be.
For hockey, certainly.
Yeah.
Like, even I mean, there are sometimes people have reached in the NFL, and there have been and we don't know enough about the draft picks in baseball to really say anything. There have been a few reaches in basketball, but like a guy who's like, I'm not mature enough, don't draft me. I'm not going to come. I'm just going to spend an extra year trying to get my life together. And then you draft him.
He's not even I don't think he's even playing right now.
No.
Yeah.
So yeah, as a Bruins fan, anything that the Canadians can do to curse themselves, I'm in favor of. So
yeah, that's a nice the good.
Yeah. Let's go back on something that I was sort of making fun of there. So
yeah.
Particularly since pretty much all my teams lost tonight, except of course the one that's actually going to win the championship. The Red Sox lost 9-1. The Celtics lost 138 to 134 in overtime, double overtime to the Knicks. And the Bruins lost 6-3. But we did have one winning franchise, the dominant New England Revolution, 3-2 winners over DC United. Their lead in the MLS is insane. To the fact if they've never won the title, if they don't win the title, something has gone terribly wrong. So we'll see. They'll probably find a way not to win the title. But that team is really, really good. So
we're gonna double good. I like that.
They're double good. They have so far through 30 games, they have 66 out of a possible 90 points. Second place overall in the overall standings of MLS has 57 points. So they're 9 points clear of second place. In their conference, they're 18 points clear of Nashville for second, which is 6 whole wins in soccer. That is pretty dominant. So hopefully they'll win. But anyway, the bad. I'm gonna go with Bob Huggins for the bad this week, and not Bob Huggins specifically, but because he's just voicing. Although Bob Huggins specifically is something you can say is probably bad. His graduation rate at the University of Cincinnati. Did you know what it was in his career at the University of Cincinnati?
Never gave it any thought. I'll take a guess. 23.
0. It was 0. He had a 0% graduation rate.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, Bob Huggins, he's now the head coach at West Virginia. And I'm going to give you, rather than just the headline, I'm going to give you where he's coming from first, and then we could talk about the headline. So where he's coming from is that he is concerned that all this decisions being made in college sports, because as you may know, Conference USA is basically going to be destroyed this week because 6 of their teams, including Rice and the Rice, UTSA, North Texas, and 3 others are all going to go to the AAC, which is the thing that was created out of the old Big East for a while, and then everybody moved around again. And AAC seemed very, very temporary, but looks like Conference USA is the one who's going to end up getting knocked out of this whole thing. But they're all moving for football reasons again. All the movement that's being made in college sports is for football reasons. So the way he's looking at things, he wants to make sure that college basketball still has a say in the table because it's the second sport. And he doesn't want the traditional rivalries and everything destroyed for that. So his way of trying to make it so that college basketball drives money throughout the year for somehow is to ditch the NCAA tournament and have the major conferences create their own college basketball postseason tournament and then let the mid-majors do whatever they do.
Sounds like that whole Super League idea that didn't quite pan out.
Oh, it's been going fabulously for Barcelona ever since then. Have you noticed? And Real Madrid losing to a team from Moldova. I mean, that leaves out the obvious thing that part of the charm of the NCAA tournament is that teams can Cinderella their way in. I mean, George Mason, James Madison, Gonzaga is now considered a powerhouse, but Gonzaga is not a school with a football program. It'd be a Big East program, except it's on the West Coast, right? So a lot of these, Wichita State, I mean, you can just go through thinking of like all the mid-majors who have become big players in college basketball.
And not just that, it's always that that fun time when you've got a number one, like a Kentucky going up against a school you've never even heard of. That it just seems like this hodgepodge of letters together. But like
IUPUI.
Yeah, that's another.
Yeah. Yeah, but I remember bringing that thing home, and my sister was looking at the bracket, and she goes, "What's an ooey pooey?"
That's something you Hawaii, right after on your luau.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, and then you have the East Carolina, not East Carolina, what am I thinking of? Some of these smaller schools who have pulled these massive upsets. Santa Clara, Steve Nash led Santa Clara with a huge, I think they were the first 15 to beat a 2, right? Virginia lost as a 1 seed. They were the first one ever to lose a 1 seed. Then they redeemed themselves in the championship next year. Like, what do we, this is a proposal. Let's just say we have a 64 team tournament just made out of, I'm presuming they're going to include the Big East in this. I don't think they'll include like the Atlantic 10 or the West Coast or Mountain West or any of those. It'll probably be, the Big 5 plus the Big East would be my guess. So what are you going to do? You're going to have 64 teams out of those 6 conferences. That's like 10 teams per conference.
Yeah, it's just, well,
it's the first round. It is 14-17 Iowa State against 19-16 Boston College in the 8-9 matchup. Like, what are we doing?
I'll pack them in.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same issue. I'm not sure how that solves anything unless you're just going to be like.
It doesn't. And college basketball is always struggling too, especially now with the development of the G League, or just that you can actually bypass stuff completely. And a lot of really solid 18-year-old talent are just saying, why am I going to, I don't know, like what Ben Simmons said he did when he went to LSU for a year. Like, why am I doing this? Ben Simmons is another elevator down again, if I really wanted to say that. But I decided,
I have to say, one of my elevator ups may be Joel Embiid, who's like, I just don't care about this dude. He's a baby. I don't have to deal with him. Stop asking me questions. So.
Yeah, what's he gonna say? Like, yeah, which is the perfect thing to say. Like, okay, he's not a distraction for me anymore. Screw off, he's gone. I don't know what more to tell you. I tried, it didn't work. Boom. Next question. But going back to that, that is the biggest draw. That tournament will draw as is, no matter who's playing for who.
Yeah. But isn't that the problem with college basketball, in that everything is basically the tournament?
It is like, a problem, but now if you're getting rid of that to try and keep other things going, it's not going to. I kind of get his point, but those rivalries are going to stay there no matter what. They're just going to keep shifting in their own different ways.
But again, though, I mean, everything, I'm not sure what to do, because all of these rivalries have been destroyed by college football, right? We don't have Kansas, Missouri all the time, the border war that we used to have twice a year. We don't have Maryland playing the Tobacco Road schools. Doesn't happen anymore because they joined the Big Ten, right? The Big East of 2005, Kemba Walker's Big East was the greatest basketball conference and super fun. Every single game in that conference mattered. That conference tournament was amazing. And all those teams are now, the West Virginia's in the Big 12, Boston College, Miami, Virginia Tech, they're all in the ACC. Like, Connecticut's in the middle of nowhere because I insulted BC once, and BC's freaking vindictive as heck. Don't piss off the Jesuits. Like, everything got destroyed because of football. So I understand his point. I just don't know how you fix it by excluding one of the reasons people watch the tournament, because I guarantee you more people are going to care about, let's just say Louisville's a 5 seed and they're playing Utah State. Like, that game's going to have more people caring than if Louisville's playing 12 seeded, like below 500 South Carolina. Like, they just aren't going to care. They're not. I'd much rather see a good mid-major play someone than a crappy big conference team.
And that's something they got to work on their out of conference schedule.
Well, that's the thing. They won't play these teams.
You're still developing an out of conference schedule.
True.
Who's deciding that? So, I mean, like, some of the great rivalries in college football are from teams that aren't even in the same conference, just because.
That is true. That is true.
So this is possible. Like, I don't know this for sure. I mean, I guess your brother would know for sure. You're scheduling your own non-conference stuff, right?
Correct.
So,
and usually a couple years in advance, and at least in college football.
So, I mean, this is possible to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know this going in. There's no reason why you can't, especially when you're pushing a strength of the schedule. I mean, it's a far from perfect system. What he's pushing obviously would be crap.
Mm-hmm.
But, and then what does that make Gonzaga? Are they not I guess they're technically a mid-major now.
Yeah, I mean, but their conference is them. I guess BYU joined their conference, so it's them, BYU, and St. Mary's. And I mean, no offense to Portland State and the Toreros of San Diego, but
that's what it is.
It is what it is.
I always like the tournament just because every time Oral Roberts gets it, I can just make dumb jokes because I just revert back to being a 12-year-old.
I just always loved. I remember the first time that Austin P made the tournament, and their fans were chanting, "Let's go P, let's go P." I was like 11, and it was fantastic. So,
Austin P really slips into Oral. I mean, like, that's writes itself. Don't take this away.
Also, like, I remember when the first time I found out that Mount St. Mary's was a place, I'm like, I think that might be illegal.
All right, before we get in more trouble, let's just go to your ugly.
Yeah. Well, all right. One thing, by the way, just came through that I saw. It actually came through earlier, but I didn't see it till just now. Remember, we had the discussion about race-based dimension. The NFL agreed to end it today.
Yeah, I read that too right before we went on, and I wanted to see who might have picked up on it, or rather who didn't. Nobody picked up on this. Now, granted, this is just a couple hours ago when this was first put on ESPN.
Right.
And you'd think that this, and the racial climate we live in, when you've got an example of institutional racism that the farthest right winger can't say, well, okay, this exists or counter, and this it got nothing when it was first brought up, and it's not like it didn't go on to it's on the biggest website of sports, because you probably saw it where I saw it on ESPN.com.
Correct.
In their main headlines on the right side. Now let's see if Jamel Hill mentions this. She didn't the last time, but I mean, this is right up their alley, and nothing. Well, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. So far 20,000 former players have tried to get awards, and they've only given them out to 30% of them.
Yeah, and just putting it in layman's terms, like what this really was, they more or less said, well, if a Black person, former football player, was suffering from this, we're starting their cognitive decline from a lesser point. So when they're taking those tests,
right?
It's about
they're dumber. So if their scores are lower, it's not as bad.
It is probably the most disgusting story that you and I have talked about, and again, we're talking about it more
than most of the rest of everyone else. So,
and that is
the NFL, by the way, admits no wrongdoing under the terms of the new settlement. Of course
not. Of course not. And I hope this is one of those things that does get more, but no, we're going to find more things that aren't racist, sort of like why there's no Asian in the Baseball Hall of Fame that we talked about a few weeks ago.
Right. Or Tom Verducci that the Red Sox are racist because they didn't have any Black players, but the Latinos didn't count who were dark skinned. So,
okay, let's move on. Let's get ugly.
Get to the ugly. Anyway, so ugly, I'm actually going to go to something which has been pretty good, but could have been better. And that is the fact that at this point, Major League Baseball still doesn't understand how to run their playoffs. I'm a pretty big sports fan. The Red Sox game ended late last night for game 4. Do you know it was basically over by the time I was home and had eaten dinner here in Chicago? Game 5. They started the game at 3 Central. What are we doing? Why are we doing this? Now, the debate before was it's on too late, so kids can't watch it, right? You know how kids really can't watch it? When they're in their goddamn social studies class at the time. Like, there's no reason they can't start at like 6 local time, right? If you still want to go, because I don't know if they're trying to separate them out. No one other than diehards is going to watch 7 straight hours of baseball. They're just not. You either start them at the same time, which it may not make sense if one's in Boston, one's in Los Angeles. I get that, right? But there's no reason they can't overlap. I mean, game 3 of the Dodgers series, or of the Dodgers Braves series, was still going on when the Red Sox game started last night. They overlapped for like 3 innings. There's no reason they can't overlap a little bit more. No one is have people switch back and forth.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They've got the arrangements in place, and I always thought it was an awful argument when they say, "Well, like the kids can watch." They do. Television stations don't care about the kids.
They don't care about the kids, but the sport better well damn care about the kids, because the average person who cares about baseball is older than me. And I probably need hearing aids at this point.
What's that? Okay, my joke didn't work.
Oh, wait, did you say something? I didn't hear
you. Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, they've never done a great job. I mean, like, that's the biggest thing, like going back to the whole racial thing. Why do a lot of young black kids aren't playing baseball? Because they don't think it's cool.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I don't understand that. But the other thing that still drives me nuts is how the worst umpires in the sport are somehow still involved in the playoffs. Like, I know that some people in our baseball thing are talking about how Joe West is a Hall of Famer. Joe West is an abomination to the sport. Joe West is a terrible, vindictive, awful umpire.
I stayed out of that one when I saw that. I was like, okay, who's going to champion for Angel Hernandez?
Angel Hernandez has no business being there. And last night's Red Sox Astros guy, Laz Diaz, is like he's the third stooge. Like, the 3 of them are all awful and have no business. And we all, I mean, people complain about individual umpires, but they're all demonstrably awful. Like, you can look at the data. The 3 of them are terrible. West is now done, but Angel Hernandez and Laz Diaz last night had 23 pitches that he called wrong.
Well, I mean, look how the Dodgers advanced, right? They advanced
against the Giants. That was ridiculous.
Yeah, like, that clearly wasn't a check swing. I mean, I'm trying to think who was it, Bellinger or who? I think it was. They asked him in the outfield. It was one of the Dodgers outfielders, and well, yeah, I couldn't really see it from where I was, but that's what it was. I forget. It had to be Bellinger. I forget who, but it's just, what is this? You're making the case for the robot ump.
It's entirely true. They are making the case for robot ump. And the Red Sox, I'm not going to say the Red Sox lost last night because of a bad strike call or a bad missed call by Laz Diaz, but the guy was struck out. It was over the plate. It was at the letters. It was strike 3. Mm-hmm. Our guy started walking off the mound. They called it a ball. And the next pitch broke open the floodgates. Again, whatever. But I mean, I can tell you there's an at bat earlier this series where JD Martinez, and I'm looking at this from Red Sox perspective. To be fair, Laz Diaz was terrible both ways yesterday. Mm-hmm. He had 23 missed pitches. 11 were thrown by the Astros. 12 were thrown by the Red Sox. Like, he was just terrible both ways, right? But there was a I think it was game 1 where JD Martinez struck out on 4 pitches, none of which were over the plate.
Mm-hmm. Well, it makes you think he took the under. He bet on the under.
Maybe.
Oh, speaking of that, how did we not tackle this? Can we close on?
Oh God, we forgot Evander Kane. How did we do this? We need to figure this out before we start talking.
Oh
yeah, Evander Kane should also be on the ugly. I can't believe I missed that.
Well, I kind of thought, yeah, because I thought that's where we were going to go, and then I forgot all about that.
Evander Kane. What can you say about Evander Kane that hasn't been said about Afghanistan?
Well, I'll put it this way: when I check in my and I ripped on Yahoo, but I always go on my Yahoo personal email, and there's always these headlines, and then the small headline: San Jose Sharks player gets suspended because it didn't say Evander Kane. It was a San Jose Sharks player got suspended for fake COVID. What do you call it? Damn it. COVID passport or just fake COVID paperwork. And I didn't even have to click on it to know it's fucking Evander Kane.
Mm-hmm.
And you click on it and it's Evander Kane. I don't know of any athlete over the last 24 months who has sabotaged his career more than Evander Kane.
No.
This guy's a moron. He is the dumbest person, and he's lucky. He is so lucky that, first off, that he's still getting paid, considering that
number one, 100%.
Yeah, because he's getting the Deshaun Watson treatment of, well, okay, we know you kind of did something, but we can't really prove, so we're not cutting you, and we're forced to pay you.
Well, by the way, there's a big Deshaun Watson three-way trade rumor that for some reason everyone's convinced that he's getting traded to Miami. And that Tua was going to Washington as part of this deal somehow. But anyway, I don't know what Washington and Miami could possibly have that Houston would want.
This is a big gamble to go this hard for a player that you don't even know if he's going to be allowed to play.
Who knows?
But
anyway, continue.
Yeah. So with Kane, this could have been way worse because I imagine he's going to be traveling still with the team. Now in Canada, we're really tight on this shit. If you try and pull off a fake one. I mean, I think they are in a lot of, I think in Hawaii, somebody got busted for that pretty hard.
Yeah, 2 people got arrested.
Okay. Same thing would happen. And if anyone's going to be like, what did he do? Did he handwrite this or something? Like,
I don't know.
Why did you? You know,
I wouldn't bet against it.
I mean, I tell you, like, it makes me respect the shit out of Kyrie because Kyrie is a man of his principles. I don't know what his principles are sometimes, but he stands by them. Kyrie practices what he preaches. It's a weird preacher, but he still does it.
Okay. By the way, Kyrie, they've announced 50 of the top 75 players in NBA history. Mm-hmm. They still have 25 to go. Mm-hmm. I saw a couple of people advocating that Kyrie has to be one of the final 25.
No, he doesn't. Not at this stage.
I would just like to remind everybody who thinks that Kyrie has never once gotten MVP vote. Mm-hmm. Just want to point that out. Sorry.
I like Kyrie's game sometimes, but top 75 ever?
Not when you don't play, and not when you quit on your team.
No, and some people are saying that this year too. Well, Charles Barkley just said it. Magic Johnson just said it. I'm sure there's.
It's amazing. But it's amazing to me that the Nets are the favorites for the NBA championship this year, because I don't see it.
I don't either. This is far more wide open, I think, an NBA season than people.
Yeah, because the Lakers' average age is us of their players.
Yeah,
and they're one of the favorites. Like, if any of those guys get hurt, and I mean, it's only one game, but Westbrook does not look like he could play with AD and LeBron. I don't know how that's going to work.
It'll be interesting. There's just so many. I don't even know that it's necessarily who's going to step up and win so much as who's going to implode. And who don't we know about? I mean, this could be the year where Denver sort of like gets in.
Sure. Why not? Hey, Milwaukee just won the championship. Why not Denver?
Well, why not?
Why not Indiana? So I don't know, I'm just throwing teams out there.
Indiana.
I'm not even gonna say Sacramento because that's just insane. Okay.
But yeah, with Evander, like I don't know. Like, let's review what this guy has done.
Allegedly.
Well, here's what we do know. The man's made over $60 million in
Okay,
hockey
Mhm.
and has already been bankrupt while he's still playing. Now, we've seen athletes go broke all the time, not while they're playing.
I feel like we've had some that have come pretty close.
Yes,
I don't know if Antoine Walker. I feel like Antoine Walker was bankrupt while he was still playing.
that very well could be, but yeah, you might be right about Antoine Walker. But Antoine was never outed by his wife on social media, who also said that he was beating her too, like allegedly.
Sorry, Antoine Walker declared bankruptcy 2 years after he retired. So
Years after, okay, all right. So Evander did while and he's a mid-level player, but a mid-level player who's made a lot of money in over his career. His teammates don't want him around.
No.
He's been accused of, and this is maybe the worst of all, I mean, for sports, I'm just in the sports spectrum, of throwing games or maybe throwing spreads. Who that hasn't been proven, but that was the biggest thing alleged by his ex.
Correct. And the league looked into it and said they couldn't find any evidence. Take that for what it is.
Right. And now you add this. Why would any team at this point, once they sort of clear all that, want to sign this guy now? Any team at all. What does he bring to the table? Nothing. He's not worth it. And he's screwed up so bad, he's going to have to keep playing. So, like, KHL, here he comes.
Mm-hmm.
God damn. And I think it's also weirder too, because you don't see this from hockey players. And it's not like they're above sin, they're not. It's just that they generally keep their shit to themselves.
Correct. They really don't say very much at all. So
right. And so it's like, the standard thing. I'm going to apologize to my teammates. I'm going to go get therapy. Blah 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
Done. It's so sad.
Mm-hmm.
Watch somebody implode like this, all because of their own doing.
100% his own doing.
Yeah. Again, the whole fake vaccine card, like, you're a target.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking at everything you do.
Mm-hmm.
You're one of the few hockey players whose ethics are questioned.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. I mean, and it's not even the fact that he's a black hockey player. So because he went this route, the left that usually sort of wants to sort of say, well, this is racist. Well, no.
There's still people doing that.
Are there? I haven't read anyone who said that.
There are a few people do it. One of which is going so hard into this, he's probably his burner account or a friend of his burner account.
Okay, so because I was looking for that, I couldn't find anything to that effect.
Yeah. Hold on, let's see. Find this guy.
Okay.
Proposition Joe. Just going through. Austin Matthews harassed a black female veteran, gets nothing. Kane gets a made up suspension simply because he's black. I'm shaking. He's all over everything for this.
What did Austin Matthews allegedly do?
I don't know.
Okay.
Larkin gets a 1-game suspension for the AHL player safety. Should have been 15 to 20 games. I guarantee Larkin doesn't do that to a Caucasian player. So, I mean, the guy's just all over it. So,
yeah, Kane's got quite a backlog of other things over the last little while. So,
well, he says it's sad that black players continue to be discriminated against. Evander Kane is a class act. Literally says it.
Okay. Well.
So I don't know what else to say. I mean, there are people out there doing it, but there are people out there who defend anything. So
That's true too. That's true too. But usually with everything sort of like being tribal, they're so pro-vaccine. It's hard to sort of jump. Like a lot of the same people who would say that would also then decry him for pulling the fake vaccine card too.
Mm-hmm.
I,
And his apology too.
yeah.
Someone did one of those Star Wars memes, with young Vader and Padme, where he says something, she asks a question, doesn't say anything, and she responds, is like, "I'm sorry for violating the NHL's COVID protocols." And she says, "But you're fully vaccinated now, right? You're fully vaccinated now, right?" Because he can't play again if he's not vaccinated. So
it's the other thing though. Well, no, actually he can play.
Not in San Jose, he can't.
Okay, not in San Jose, but he can play other places.
Okay.
So, but that's
Problem is he plays for the San Jose Sharks. It's the
No,
same problem Kyrie has playing for the Nets.
Go on the road.
Okay. Great. Congratulations. And he's not gonna be able to play in Canada.
No.
And he's not gonna be able to play in New York.
I don't even know how he crosses the border. I'm trying to think of all the shit I just went through.
Hold on. So that's 41 plus 2 in New York is 43 plus Montreal, Toronto, and Ottawa is 46 plus I don't know how many they play against the Western Conference.
LA's pretty tight, no? On this?
What?
LA's pretty tight on that, right?
LA is pretty well, not the same though, not the same as because Kyrie could have played in LA, but he can't play in Golden State. So that's what, 2 against Vancouver, 2 against Winnipeg, 2 against Calgary,
Edmonton,
and 2 against Edmonton. So that's 8 more. So we're talking so great. He could play out of an 82 game season, he could play 54, but he's already being suspended for 21.
And that's the other dumbest thing too. Like this guy, he was still getting paid to sit on the bench because they're just writing this out. He forfeited 1.5 million that he needs.
Well, it's not that he needs it. It's that the guy who has the Jeff Galooly job, and he needs it before he gets hit in the kneecaps.
Yeah, and he's going to borrow it from his teammates. I don't think so.
In the immortal words I brought up before, in the immortal words of Chevy Chase in Dirty Work, you owe the mob money, so they blow off your toe. You still owe them the money. It just doesn't seem fair.
Well, he could still play with a missing toe.
Yeah, true. It just doesn't seem fair. So,
all right, I think we can sort of close on that.
always goes on Chevy Chase's quote from Dirty Work. So.
Absolutely. We'll do one more blatant self-promotion. Chris Burnett and I, we're going to be recording for this crap was on national television. The debut episode of Cop Rock.
I do not know what that means.
Cop Rock? You never heard of that?
No.
Right.
Is that like is that a B-52 song?
No. This is where this guy Stephen Bochco got the idea that he was going to do like a cop / like a Law and Order type show before it was Law and Order, but also they would break out and do musical numbers midway through.
So like My Crazy Ex-Girlfriend only has a cop show.
I've never seen that, but I was thinking more like Hudson Hawk.
Okay.
So
fair enough. Yeah, My Crazy Ex-Girl. It's not My Crazy Ex-Girl, just Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. Everyone breaks out into song for whatever they're thinking for an internal monologue.
Yes, so the jury does it. I've tried to I picked a real bad one because I've been trying to watch it and I keep stopping after every 3 minutes. Can't stand this.
Let me know when you do My Mother the Car.
I'm letting you know when we do Cherry in the Fridge.
Oh, Cherry in the Fridge. I mean, actually, even more than that, the sacred episode where they're stuck in the cave and they're all hallucinating on drugs. That episode of Punky Brewster, the Owata Gusayam episode, where like a whole bunch of kids basically smoke peyote in a cave. Yeah, that's a good one too. I can't believe that put that one on there. Go look that one up.
I know the Punky they got canceled already. The reboot.
Oh, the reboot did?
Not the reboot, but I guess the
Yeah. Well, she and Cherry were out. Got canceled already?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I guess the streaming numbers weren't too good. I don't know.
I don't. I watch very few television programs these days. So
you and me both. With that, we ask everyone, as always, stay safe.
And yeah, don't fake your vaccine card. It doesn't work out well.
No. And if you do, make sure it can't cost you $1.5 million.
Mm-hmm. Or time in jail. So, or
your reputation, which may not have been an issue here.
I don't think that was cost.
Probably not.
All right. Talk to you later, guys.
Bye.